Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast with your hosts, Dan and Dawna Wilson. We are the only flim-flam-free broadcast in Kootenai County, bringing you facts, evidence, and valid questions concerning the elected officials in our area. These are the things that directly affect you, whether you know it or not. We're going to bring it to your attention. Our program tonight is sponsored by Stella's Stogies. They are located in Spirit Lake, Idaho. More about them and a special discount you can receive when you go in to make purchases from them. We'll talk more about that later in the program. Give us your questions and comments by typing them into the comments section on whichever platform you're watching. If you're watching live, share this live stream to your channel. And for our podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. To learn more, visit our website at libertywithoutcompromise.com. And now, here's Dan Wilson.
Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us on this very first Liberty Without Compromise broadcast of the year 2025. I say AD. I don't subscribe to the new, forms of BC and AD. It is and will always be the year of our Lord 2025.
I didn't even know they changed that.
Yeah,
I was like a little late to the party on that one.
Yeah, I kind of like that music.
Just kidding.
We get keep
it's just you feel better energy.
Feeling energy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to start this new year, continuing the cause of liberty without compromise. And this is a continuation, of course, of my sheriff's race in Kootenai County, Idaho, which I did not, unfortunately, was not the elected sheriff. But the message still stays the same. The message has not stopped just because the election has stopped. And I'm here along with Dawna to continue to give our perspective on things, not only locally concerning liberty-minded things, but also in the region, in the country, and around the world. So Liberty Without Compromise is not part of the campaign. However, it is here for us to be able to discuss a variety of things and how it might impact you if you truly love liberty as much as we do.
And I forgot to remind you, you can, even if you don't have a question necessarily, just say hello or drop a comment and we can share it up on the screen, which becomes fun because you guys can see what the others are saying. And then, yeah, it's fun to share those messages.
We have lots of unfinished business. We're not going to necessarily get a lot of local subjects to talk about tonight. I think people are kind of tired of it here locally. It's going to heat up again exponentially.
Are they,
in a couple
though?
Weeks.
Are they, though?
I think, there's
license plate readers,
license plate readers, the Emergency Management Act, all sorts of things that got people whipped up and lots of different comments going on.
I said spun up, which is something you started saying.
Right.
You said whipped up, which is something I started.
Let's see how many times tonight I can say actually and so. Because I've been listening and I realize phrases and words that I need to do better on.
Oh, yeah. And then there's one that Mike Bauer taught you.
In other words?
In other words. And then he taught me flim-flam.
Flim-flam free.
We're going to be flim-flam
It's
free.
1,000,000 degrees up here right now, and we are seeing the very first real snowfall of this winter season, and I'm dying up here. I think it's about 100 degrees.
Oh, I think it feels great.
So
Perfect.
We've got all these lights on us, but are they LEDs? Are they throwing the...
You know what? They're a little hot.
Yeah, a little
they're
hot.
not supposed... LED is not supposed to get warm, but I would argue...
All right, friends, I appreciate you listening in and participating. I almost started to say one of my catchwords. I'm going to work really, really hard tonight on not doing this. Lots of things have been going on around the country, but before we get into talking about terrorism, acts of terror, whether Trump will get into office or not before the Inauguration Day and everything in between, let's talk a little bit about what we have been doing in between the holidays. Our last broadcast live was before Christmas. We had our 2 weeks off, Christmas Day and New Year's Day. But in between, we released another 6 episodes or so, 6, I believe, of the Liberty Without Compromise podcast. Now, what is the difference between the Liberty Without Compromise podcast versus this broadcast that we're doing?
I was reading a comment on the screen and you just asked me a question. You said, what's the difference between this live stream that we're doing and the podcast? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we were able to delve into a special series on the podcast that's audio only. So I strongly encourage you to subscribe, that which you can do wherever you get your shows, whether it's iHeart, you listen on Spotify, Apple. And that is going to be very interesting food for thought for those of us here locally in Kootenai County.
Yeah, we, of course, released 8 episodes of Power Player Pastors in Kootenai County, and these directly tie into my experience as I was running for Sheriff of Kootenai County, and a lot of interference that I received, and outright lies and rumors and all sorts of devious behavior, if I can say devious. I believe it was devious. And so it's our chance, my chance specifically, to share with everybody in Kootenai County what exactly is going on with certain pastors who are very politically involved right here in Kootenai County, more specifically Coeur d'Alene. One is a very large church that is very politically active. Another one that is probably to the same degree, well, maybe not to the same degree, but still very much a player in the area. And so, look, the opportunity was there for me to finally tell my side and to bring the receipts so that you guys can listen and decide for yourself whether or not we've got an issue with these churches, and more specifically with these pastors, and why you should be concerned about the conduct of these pastors and these organizations as it relates to liberty without compromise, and right here in Kootenai County. So I believe we have a teaser for one of the episodes that we just did, episode 9, which involves allegations of me and a certain pastor and cussing and all sorts of things. So here goes.
Out Compromise Podcast, Episode 9 in the Power Player Pastors of Kootenai County series. Listen to the taped conversation between Dan Wilson and an influential local pastor who, in his own words, exposes Sheriff Bob Norris and County Commissioner Bruce Matari.
You cannot be the only person, the only pastor, the only man of integrity in this county that understands what Bob and Bruce are up to. I'm shocked that I'm the only one out there right now that's willing to actually stand in that gap, to actually call out what they're doing, the bullying techniques, the dishonesty. Why am I the only man in this entire county that's doing this?
Oh, trust me. You're not the only man that does that, Dan.
Who's done it publicly?
So, brother, I have stood in that gap for years.
To call Bruce and Bob out?
Oh, I've gone on Bruce before.
Publicly?
Trust me. That, boy, I'll tell you what. When it comes to social media, Bruce is a wizard. He'll destroy whoever he can. The problem that you have is Bruce. That's the problem.
I'm well aware of that. And then that's a very sad reflection that we have a man in the position that's supposed to stand in the gap for the people that has to be backed up and coached by a county commissioner. I mean, this is where we're at.
Listen to the full recorded phone call in Episode 9 at libertywithoutcompromise.com or wherever you get your shows.
So it's true. We can listen to the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Spreaker, YouTube, the idahosheriff.com Liberty Without Compromise page.
Yeah, when you're on your podcast platforms, look up Liberty Without Compromise.
So if you like what you hear, if you're shocked like I was shocked as I was having to retell the events, share with those in the community, those that need to know if they happen to go to those churches or involved. There needs to be accountability brought back to the pulpits right here in Kootenai County. And I believe wrong is wrong. Doesn't matter what your station is, whether or not you are a power player pastor or whether or not you're just a lowly congregate that, goes on Sunday or Wednesday. You need to know what's going on. And I think that this is the sort of thing that congregates want to know that their pastor is involved with and doing.
They do. And we have the naysayers, of course, when we release these episodes that say, you know what, Dan Wilson, come on, just let it go.
Ed DePriest. Ed DePriest loves, he finally got blocked. I blocked Ed DePriest, city councilman from Hayden, Idaho, who, he likes to frequently pop onto my pages and let me know that.
Well, but the reason that this is important, it's not so much Wilson was wronged and he's got to come back and vindicate himself. And so he just wants to lead the charge on this one. It's that you very much need to understand the powers that are at play in politics in Kootenai County. That is not going to go away until it's exposed and behaviors fundamentally change.
They have to change.
So that ultimately is the point of releasing this information. I don't believe it was you saying I must be vindicated. I mean, there was the challenge to you to like the one where we
John
played
Padula
the audio.
said release the entire
whole thing.
recording so that it wasn't twisted, and that's exactly what we did.
So that episodes 1 through 8, and I know Dan already did this, but 1 through 8 are
is a church that we did not name, but the pastor right after the election decided the Sunday after to comment from the pulpit that he was astounded by the lies that this candidate, Dan Wilson, was I guess, what do you want to say, propagating?
Yeah.
And that I'd personally threatened him. Well, that wasn't the truth. So we decided that it was time to expose that pastor and his former federal agent, Homeland Security operative, friend, and what they had to say. So yeah, you'll want to go back and listen. There's many, many hours, so you can listen to it on long drives or in between your work days.
Kootenai County GOP says we still don't know where the pastor, I'll leave the name out, where the pastor demanded a shrimp dinner, and we still don't know who the Fed is. Well, thanks for chiming in.
You can probably figure it out on the different chat rooms, but I like that. He wanted a shrimp dinner over a steak dinner.
Yeah.
I see what they're doing there.
Yep.
That's good. So yeah, go ahead and share that and listen. Now, last time I asked for special prayers for a friend of mine named Ron, who's undergoing some serious health concerns. Thank you for all those that messaged us in and said that you are praying for Ron and lifting him up. I got another friend tonight that was involved with the campaign who had neck surgery, Todd. So want you to know that we're thinking about you too and wishing for you a speedy recovery. There are a lot of people in this area and in the region across the country that are sick. Mm-hmm. And some people are saying that it's COVID. Some people are saying it's the bird flu. Some people are saying it's the fog that is releasing biopathogens into the air. I don't know what it is, but man, there are a lot of people sick.
Yeah, we are in a time where it's next to impossible to know what the truth is.
So thinking about terrorism in the homeland, it's something that if you have been born, if you were born rather, since 9/11 in 2001, it's part of your everyday, I would say, it's a common term that anybody after 9/11, 2011, or 2001, man, I'm getting all my dates mixed up, but that fateful day when the trade twin towers were hit, terrorism has become a commonplace term in America. It wasn't when you and I were kids. Terrorism was, save for the Chuck Norris movies and the Rambo movies and, our Hollywood heroes that were fighting for our freedom around the world, but not here in the country. So we talk about terrorism in all its different fashions all the time here in the country. We have terrorists that come from other countries, and we have apparently homegrown terrorists, and we have all sorts of angles of terrorism. So it was no surprise that on January 1, America experienced 2 acts of terrorism. Now, whether or not they were state-sponsored or whether they were lone wolves or what, we're never going to know because we know that our government continually lies to us. They don't think that we can handle the truth or they don't want us to know the truth. But of course, we're talking about the truck attack in New Orleans and those folks that were run down, horrific videos and shot. I'm not going to name that terrorist because I don't want to give him any more notoriety than he already has. And then, of course, there was the Tesla truck bomb that detonated in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. So 2 different venues, 2 different actors. They appear to be homegrown. I thought it was very interesting. You and I listened to the Sean Ryan podcast where Sean had a whistleblower who exposed the email that was sent to him by the Green Beret. Matt, I think they call him Bentz. I'm going to get that wrong, his last name wrong. But he released a email claiming that we have all sorts of drone technology, anti-gravitational craft, and that America was involved with acts of terrorism to, I believe it was Afghan civilians when they were taking out poppy fields, black ops. So a lot of things that were purported. But what we do know is that we are seeing an increase of attacks all over the country. And I believe, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot more of that. I think it's going to be more and more commonplace. So you and I have talked about this for about the past year, 5th generation warfare. And that may be a new term for some of you out there listening. We tend to think of warfare, 1st gen, 2nd gen, etc., swords versus, horses versus artillery, and each generation, the war tactics change. But sometime since the Cold War and into the War on Terror, GWOT, we have this new warfare, which is 5th generation warfare. And it's a little bit tough to get your mind wrapped around, but here is a definition of 5th generation warfare. It's warfare of information and perception. What does that mean? It basically means that anything and everything can be used in order to deceive people. It's not kinetic. It's not necessarily we're lobbing bombs over at this nation and they're attacking us here and we're moving troops around. What they're doing is, and nobody knows who these enemies are of the United States or the people, but they use social media. They use misinformation. They bait people into getting them to read things and to believe one way while it's significantly the other. There's gaslighting. There's projecting. There's all sorts of things that are hard to grasp and understand, and it comes from all different directions. So very well, these two incidents that we were just talking about, not only in New Orleans, but also in Las Vegas, could be components of 5th generation warfare. And the problem is that it's very, very difficult to understand with as much that is going on around the country and around the world, what exactly are we supposed to think? Mm-hmm. It's not like when you and I were kids where Russia bad, America good, Vietnam bad, Rambo good.
Right.
It's changed. So we have things like drones versus UFOs. So all of these crafts, and I'm going to use the term UFO because I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s. We call them UFOs. I think they're UAWs or whatever the new acronym is, but flying objects are unidentified. I think it's hilarious that there are those that claim that these aircraft that they're seeing all over the East Coast, and they are seeing them all over the country, but primarily the past few weeks around Christmas, you were hearing reports of them being on and around New Jersey. If they're from outer space, why do they need clearance lines? Mm-hmm. So I believe that they are man-made, but this brings up another part of the 5th generation quandary, which is, here's a prime example.
Why are you asking such basic questions?
Why? Because I'm a basic guy. We don't know whether or not these are United States military aircraft, whether or not they're Chinese, whether or not they're the private sector. We just don't know. And we're not getting straight answers. There is an example of, or could be an example of 5th gen warfare. We are made to feel unstable, uncertain about what exactly are these. Are these here to attack us? Are they not? Are they our own technology that we're trying out? The Trump Tower Tesla car bomb guy, the Green Beret, allegedly that was involved with that, was saying that it's United States and Chinese technology. Again, are we supposed to be fearful, or are we supposed to be extremely encouraged? What do you think? I mean, should we be encouraged or discouraged over whether or not these things are anti-gravitation,
I mean, you get information, you say, okay, I think this is the angle I'm feeling the most strongly ready to accept.
Right. And
then, like you say, am I supposed to feel better or worse about that now that I'm agreeing with it? I actually just wrote an article about this earlier in the week. I guess it's been a long week. It's only Wednesday. But I think really one of the most important elements of this type of warfare is not knowing who your enemy is.
Yeah.
So it used to be that you'd go to war, and I made a very simple analogy when I wrote. And when I was in 4th grade, the schoolyard bully, her name was Margot. And you'd go out into the field to play. She'd start backing you in a corner, calling you names. It's like, Margot was the enemy. That was very clear cut. And because I knew who my enemy was, I had a strategy on how to deal with that enemy, which in the 4th grade involved running over to Miss Temple and saying, hey, this kid's a problem. And then she'd pull her off the playground. We're good till tomorrow at least. But the world we're in now, as you were setting up to talk about this segment, it's that it's coming. The warfare is coming from all different places. I mean, even you and I want to be able to say it's the globalists, it's the Democrats. We used to be the Democrats if you're Republican, and now it's like, we got a uniparty and it's globalism. But we really don't know because you've got whether it be people in spiritual authority, whether it be your local government. You've also got anybody with financial influence, and then you've got the social media aspect and business moguls and an entire globe of this going on. And I don't even believe that all those things are working in unison for one common goal. Yeah. So we are now at war with something that you are never going to know specifically who your enemy
confusion.
is.
And a great example of that is right after Sean Ryan had his guest, as they were talking about this manifesto that was emailed by the Green Beret, it started coming from every direction. People that I watch and I respect online were saying Sean Ryan is now the enemy and he's part of MK Ultra. Yes. And, this is all disinformation. Then you got other guys that are saying Sean Ryan is the only solid dude out there. This is 100% true. And then guys would say, well, Sean is actually really sincere and he's got a great podcast informing the people on topics that nobody else will discuss, but he's being used as a pawn. So again, more and more confusion, right? Yes. The more you read, the more confused you get. And then lastly, you look at the social media all the way around the board with every kind of philosophy, opinion, expertise, lack of expertise, shouting your mouth off, all of these things combined. And it leaves us to be very unstable. And this is really the first time in my lifetime that I believe the majority of people are on a constant a platform of instability, meaning that they just constantly have a fear, but they can't pinpoint what that fear is. And that can be very, very dangerous because if you don't have absolute truths in your life, if you don't have these hard truths that you live by, you are going to eventually drown in the sea of this misinformation, this 5th generation warfare. Now, wars and rumors of wars. We're continually hearing over and over again that there is going to be a kinetic war with China, or we're going to be in a war with Russia, or the Mexicans are going to take us over. I mean, you name it, the cartels, they're coming our way, which continually also leads us to be fearful if we're not being careful. So when you're thinking about 5th generation warfare, which I'm hoping that if you're not familiar, there's a couple great videos online that do a much better job articulating this warfare and defining it and getting you to kind of think about how it really works. But in the meantime, we also do have physical threats that very much can harm us. We just don't know whether they're state sponsored. General Blaine Holt, retired brigadier general, he and I have become friends. He's on Newsmax quite a bit, and he offers a lot of great perspective based on his years of service and his business background. And One of the things that he brought to my attention early on, this is about a year ago, as you and I were down at the unsecure Arizona border, and we saw all of these military-aged males from Africa and the Middle East that were coming over our border with no border patrol, no law enforcement, doing whatever they wanted to, being escorted by cartel-sponsored transportation around the country. We were wondering, well, what are they here for? Where are they going? One of the things that Blaine has talked about is polystability actors, where these individuals have come here for a reason, and they're throughout the entire continental United States, and given the right opportunity and direction, that they will be activated, if you will, to cause a lot of problems on infrastructure and on soft targets all around the country. So these are things that I do believe, as we're talking about the fifth generation and things that are rumors versus not rumors. One of the things that we do know, you and I have seen this firsthand, is we have a lot of military-aged males, many of them battle-hardened, at least by my account, and from what I've heard from others that I've spoken with, that they are here, and they are here for a reason. So the question is what kind of things should we be on the lookout for that these guys could be doing as they're looking to destabilize things? Again, thinking about Trump in just a couple weeks, everybody believes that Trump is the savior, that he was given a mandate and he's going to come in and clean house, drain the swamp, and we're all going to be able to live happily ever after. I personally don't believe that is going to roll out the way that people think it is. I think
now you've got more people questioning his agenda with some of the stuff he's come out with. It's just even this week.
Yeah, and you saw the attempts on his life over the summer. There's all sorts of questionable things going on. Secret Service and their inability to protect a former president and main contender for the presidency last summer. But there's a lot of things going on between now and about 2 weeks out from when Trump is sworn in. So, look, I don't ever want to cause panic by anybody, for anybody rather, that is listening. But I do want people to be cognizant of a potential threat. And that threat could come from many different angles, but we now need to be more wary than ever, not fearful. Never be fearful. But be prepared. And I think that some of the things that we need to be watching out for is these polystability actors. If they are given the go-ahead, the green light, by those that are helping to form their activities and coordinate them around the United States, as many believe that they are, we need to be looking at a lot of soft targets. These are things that they could be doing to disrupt life, even right here in Kootenai County or in Spokane or in the region. Power grids, power stations, disrupting those, attacking those, and destroying components there. Water, sewage treatment plants. We have all sorts of medical facilities in this region. So these are places where when you're out and about, be paying attention. Those people that were out partying on New Year's Eve, there were a lot of folks that were mowed down that did not see that coming. Mm-hmm. And you're there, you're having fun with your friends and living life.
Now, when you say that, do you mean physically didn't see it coming? Because sometimes we say that metaphor, I didn't see that one coming.
Both. Yeah. I believe in both ways.
There was one video that's replayed in my mind, unfortunately. I mean, these are horrific images that we're now subject to. And some of it, it's like, no, I'm not going to look away. I'm not going to shield myself from the world we're living in and those potentials. But one of the ones, you had a few friends there in the middle of the street, and one of the three was looking down at her phone. Yeah. Which again, people are thinking the street shuts down, everybody is safe out here, we're safe. But of the three that were standing there, and I'm sure a lot of you saw that clip as well, I think two of them were able to make it curbside and were spared from that. And then the gal that had her head down in her phone, just like you said, literally didn't see that coming.
So this is a great time to remind those watching and those that are listening later on. be constantly vigilant, pay attention. Don't be fearful. But if you're going to be out in public, whether you're downtown Main Street, whether you're at a concert, whether you're at a school event, church, town square, whatever, constantly be observing what's going on around you. And like I did with my kids when they were little, where are your exits? Always be looking for your exits wherever you are. Look for those exits. And then my advice is whatever exits are obvious to everyone else, where if there's a mass panic event where people start bolting for exits, look for the exit that nobody else is paying attention to. Those will be safer to traverse most of the time. But yeah, we live in times where you have to be continually vigilant. And I know for my friends that all pack, they believe that their sidearm is going to save them. If you watch how fast that event rolled out with the truck, these things happen extremely quick. Your gun is not always going to save you. And so you need to be physically making certain that if you're going to be out and about, that you're mobile, that you can actually move. You need to be physically able to move when you need to, but you need to be observing anything and everything around you, because liberty without compromise resolves that you accept part risk and danger when you're out and about for your liberty. You don't want to trade your dangerous liberty of a constant surveillance state in exchange for, well, I'm going to be completely free from any kind of harm. So yeah, if you're out and about, this is a great reminder to you, your family, your friends. Talk about it. Talk about your schemas. Schemas are daydreams, what if scenarios, and it's good for your brain to be imagining what if scenarios, because it helps you react much faster. And we all know that action beats reaction every single time. If
you're just joining us tonight, you remember you can join in on the conversation by just putting your comments or questions right there in the comment section on whichever platform you're joining us tonight, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, or over on X. I want Connie to know that I am seeing your question. It's involved in a bit of a deviation from our topic tonight, but I'm going to come back to that and we can dialogue about it in the comment section on Facebook. We can do that later tonight. So thank you for joining us. And we are talking fifth generation warfare. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'm going to have Dan recommend some resources to go with. There was a great documentary that we saw that I really don't think it was too long. It was
about an hour.
Yeah, about an hour. Yeah. But knowing, if you just think, okay, what is this? What's this terminology being thrown around and what does it have to do with me? But if you really understand, we're not so much sitting here waiting for World War III or necessarily, or where the missile is going to come from and take out whatever big city. We are in that warfare right now, fifth generation, and you're in it. Yeah. This has been on the rollout for years in the making, not knowing who your enemy is, the confusion that's swirling all around, these scary events that are unfolding, even down to the fires in LA. Yeah. And I mean, Dan's talking about having a plan when you're going out. And I'm even thinking of some of the people who were they ready with an escape plan?
And we're going to talk about that here coming up.
Yeah. I don't want to steal your thunder on that.
To go over that. I think that fifth generation warfare, again, has to be looked at from the lens of not only globally, if you're thinking about an onion and at the center is where we are, and then each layer is, a concentric rings, if you will, of exposure. But why is that important for us to be thinking about fifth generation warfare right here in the States? Mm-hmm. It's because if you are not careful, my friend, my fellow citizen, you are unwittingly going to participate in watching your liberties, those described in the Bill of Rights as being your God-given rights to life, liberty, and property, taken away from you as they have continually eroded it after, well, we could go back recently to 9/11 with the Patriot Act, but when people start becoming more and more concerned, they give up that dangerous liberty for surveillance states, whether that's in the form of, LPRs. Right now, do I think that today license plate recognition technology in Kootenai County is going to invade our privacy and I'm going to lose my Fourth Amendment rights. No, not necessarily. But it is a continual step and a march towards a end goal of a surveillance state where you don't need any of these rights anymore because we've got this big old bubble we're going to place over top of you. Let us worry about it. And you give up these rights just so we can provide you the security that you're not really good at providing yourself. Be careful as you start hearing about unidentified flying objects that are in your area, in your community. When government starts coming up with solutions on how they're going to solve these problems by treading on more of your rights and justifying it, and it always starts out small and eventually grows, that is where you have to be careful. And especially when you start having these polystability actors act out. I hope it never happens. But if they do, watch how fast people are going to demand their government come up with solutions to solve their problem. It's a tough thing to think about, but this is where we are. And with knowledge and preparedness, you don't have to fall in the trap of those that are unprepared.
Do you think it's more important to focus on what's going on in the local scene, paying attention to where you're coming and going, and then because there's so much going on the national and world stage that feels so already out of control?
Yeah.
Is there still hope to change some of the direction of this locally? I mean, I know that was one of the things that you were really fighting toward, and that's the message of liberty without compromise. And even as you were running for office, to say, it's more important to have somebody in these positions with the morals and ethics to stay the course and truly represent the people, not an agenda of government.
Yeah. Well, the sheriff is that stopgap for the people that keeps the machine in check, right? And that's unfortunately what's lost when you have a career cop that becomes sheriff and stays sheriff, is because they're always going to look at every problem through, police service type of problems versus civil rights issues. What is important to keep in balance. And so that's why I'm opposed to the LPRs, for example. And we're going to talk more about this in the coming weeks, and to why I believe that my friends who are pro LPRs or law enforcement aren't bad guys.
Right.
They aren't. They are attempting to do the good work.
Yep.
But that's why you need a representative like a guy like me to say, okay, that's great. They are good, valuable tools for right now, but I'm looking at the long-term effect, and we don't want to go down that road of the long term. Now, you asked the question, should we be more concerned locally versus federally? And we grew up in a time where we were enamored with federal government. The FBI was sexy and cool, the president, the military, all things federal government. The big flex of the federal government was cool. Unfortunately, we lost sight of how critical and more cool our own individuality is right here locally. I almost said that word incorrectly. That's a tongue twister.
That's hard.
But I believe that we need to be focused always primarily right here in the county, and then at the state, and then at the federal level, because that's the way government was designed. You take care of your own community first, and then you're extended, and so on and so forth. So tyranny comes at the hand of local officials every bit as much as it does at the federal level. And so when you look at the local government entering into behaviors that are similar to what will eventually carry out the desire of the federal government, that's a problem. The federal government was never, ever meant to be as large and all-encompassing as it is. The founders, even in the 10th Amendment, restated it. Those powers not enumerated to Congress are left to the states. I don't even know why we have federal law enforcement. That one Blows my mind that it ever became a thing and that the states allowed it and it became the oppressive organization that it is. One of the things that came out in the letter that was leaked to Sean Ryan and his guests is that the FBI had to come back and claim that, you know what, this letter is authentic. I'm guessing that if they would never have released that letter, the FBI would have lied. And I think we have enough whistleblowers to talk about how corrupt the FBI has become. I have zero. In fact, I have less than zero trust in the FBI. But locally, we do have the power if people will get off their asses and actually become involved and don't just take the Republican Central Committee's recommendations as to be their gold standard why somebody is worthy enough to be your representative. I mean, I've been hearing some arguments lately that are coming out of other elected officials, and I'm thinking, you guys need to be replaced.
Yeah, Dan and I were having this discussion in the car the other night where we've gotten ourselves into a situation because we're just voting R all down the ballot, that you're leaving it up to one organization to choose who is installed. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially it. You are never, you no longer have a choice.
I think there should be some legal ramifications to the Republican. This is now a little tangent. Yeah. The Republican Central Committee here with its PAC, Political Action Committee, and all the dollars that they can spend on promoting their candidates. I believe that there should be repercussions for any kind of a vetting or an endorsement, and whatever they don't call it an endorsement. Everybody knows it's an endorsement, because who's to say that Brent Reagan and the Central Committee can't just from here till eternity pick who they want to be on the ballot? And we know that in Kootenai County, everybody's going to vote if you have an R behind your name. So a little tangent there, but where does this all hit the road when it comes to us? Being prepared makes you a much better citizen, a better family member, a better neighbor, a better employee, because we do live in these unstable times. And I hope I'm wrong, but I do not see Trump as coming in and calming the waters.
Right.
I think we've only yet begun to see the problems that are going to emerge if he's truly able to clean out the swamp, which I don't really know that it's even possible, but there's going to be a lot of very, very angry people. And I'm going to go into talking about being prepared, not being paranoid, but prepared. And then I'm going to take it sounds like there's a couple questions that we can talk about if we have time to answer those questions. Mm-hmm. But being prepared is something that I have advocated for many, many, many years, because I think it's the right thing to do. Can
I do a plug for our sponsor tonight?
Why
and then
we'll
continue off that. I feel like it needs music behind it. The show is not ending. I just want to let you know who our sponsor is for the program tonight. And it needed some pizzazz. So we thank you, Stella's Stogies. They are on Main Street in Spirit Lake, Idaho. They're more than just cigars. They have gifts in the shop as well. Dan frequents Stella's Stogies. You can order cigars through them. Whatever you need, they got it. They also do events. So they will craft the perfect smoke and sizzle for your event. So instead of the same boring old vendors, think about Stella's Stogies at your event. You get some clout for that. Also, 10% off your purchase if you mention that you heard about Stella's Stogies right here on the Liberty Without Compromise podcast. And you can visit their website at stellasstogies.com.
And on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Stella is adorable. Stella, the mascot, the bulldog. Brad and Lisa, great folks. Support law enforcement, support their community, and they have a great selection of cigars. In fact, I'm due back up again sometime this week.
Yeah. Wow. Get to it.
But I'm going to be buying cigars.
Right. You're going to be buying them and smoking
Rumor is that they're going to be getting some Foundation cigars.
Yeah?
I believe so.
I'm trying to negotiate their website. Oh, here it is. Just showing you the website here. StellaStogies.com. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, And send us an email.
Send you an email.
Yeah, send me an email.
What's that
I'll
email?
put my email up on the screen, but it is Dawna, DAWNA, at retrocrushmedia.com. I'll put it up on the screen. So if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of our program, that's the way to do it.
Well, as I'm going to now speak to being prepared, I am going to put a plug in and say that part of my preparedness kit includes a box of cigars and a cutter and a lighter and matches.
You got some other stuff.
The end of the world, I have to have my cigars.
Too.
Yeah. So what does it mean to be prepared? We are led to believe that if you say the word prepared, that you are a right-wing kook, that you're going to have a cabin out in the woods, you're going to go hole up in there, or your underground shelter and survive the nuclear Armageddon that is going to befall us. And you know, that maybe at one time was more truthful than not. But the older I get, especially once I started having kids, I wanted to make certain that I was always prepared to give them food and shelter and a safe place to be, and heat, right? Because you want to make certain that the little buggers are warm. So I started this a long time ago. I'm nowhere near as prepared as some of the people that we know. I mean, they make my preparedness look extremely minuscule. Mm-hmm. But here's what I would say for those who aren't familiar with being prepared and what that means to me is being prepared for any kind of disruption to services. Grocery stores. We saw some of this in COVID. There are many who still remember, like it was yesterday, because it was only 5 years ago, where you couldn't get cleaning supplies. You couldn't get toilet paper, although I still don't know where that ever started, why toilet paper was such a big deal. But you saw a lot of shelves that were bare. And in the years after that, the supply chains that were broken, it was still hard to get supply chains that were broken. It was hard to get some of your normal staples. So for me, I want to make certain that I have the basics for my immediate family and for some of my neighbors around me. And it's nothing that crucial. 6 weeks of food for each individual in your residence is a good idea. Bulk rice, bulk beans, canned meats, chilies, all sorts of things. I mean, whatever. You guys can figure that out. I'm not.
We got stuff stocked up, and Dan's like, I look at it, I'm like, and Dan's like, if you're hungry enough, you'll eat it. If you're hungry enough, you'll eat it.
Spam is an acceptable meat.
Spiced ham.
Let's see what else. Let's talk about medical supplies. Here's something that you don't think about. If there's a disruption of some kind and you have critical medication, thyroid, insulin, do you have backup, or are you only living, day to day with that? If you are, I would highly encourage you, if you can afford it, and get your healthcare provider to help you to get, enough for an extra month. That's far better than having to find later on that you're in need of medicine and supplies are short and you just can't get it. It's far better to have that on hand. There are some great resources online. One group that I've been using that I like is a group called, now I got to find it, Medical, let's see. I can't. Here it is.
Pull it up if you have
The Wellness Company. The Wellness Company's online. You consult with their doctors, and we have these kits that have all good antibiotics. It's got amoxicillin, it's got Z-Paks, ivermectin. Good kits to have on hand. Yeah, you're going to have to spend a little money to get them. They're a little more expensive, I think, than if you were to go out and buy them directly, if you even could. But these are things that I personally want to have, because if there is a sickness going around and you can't make it out to a healthcare provider, it's good to be able to have these resources, a kit for each member in your family.
Okay, so I just pulled up their website, and they've on the homepage, they've got a spike detox, which you might be interested. That's been going around social media a lot even today. But under med kits that I'm pulling up,
I don't know anything about the supplements.
Yeah,
and
we're
I'm not going to talk about
not getting into that. But they've got the medical kits and some of the other things Dan's talking about there.
But it's good to have that. And of course, along with your heat and your food and your water and your medical supplies, here's something that you really should have. And it doesn't take a lot to get invested, but you have to invest some time to get these to work correctly. And that's the radios. You want backup radios. One of the radios that we recommend is the GMRS, which is the General Mobile Radio Service. It does take a license from the FCC. So if you want to be compliant, you have to go online, and that is a cumbersome website to maneuver and pay $35 for a 10-year license. But in essence, if you're in a local community and you're geared up with those that understand how radios work, you can get your radios programmed by some local experts, and they use repeaters that you can share information in your local community. It doesn't go out as long as ham radios, so the range is limited. But if you have a loved one and you want to be able to reach out, several miles out to find out how they're doing, if your cell phones go down, if your landlines go down, these are things that people don't think about, and it's worth spending. I think the cheapest radios are $30-$40.
And look, I'm not a kook. I'm not a kook. But I will say, like today, I was driving into Coeur d'Alene by myself, and there's stuff like 2025 hit. And every one of us is refreshing news feed to see, okay, what else is going on? What else just happened? So I'm driving in by myself, and I just have that thought in the back of my head. Okay, if vehicle breaks down or some other event happens and the car is no longer going to roll forward, and I'm however many miles away from home, knowing you're back that way.
Right.
I mean, that's something that can bring any of us a ton of peace of mind to have that backup form of communication in a car. So really, I mean, if there was nothing else,
and that's why we have radios specifically for that. I'm not going to tell you what brands to buy. You can do your own research. This is not meant for me to give you any personal recommendations because I'm not qualified to do it. I'm just saying these are things to think about. Don't just take your safety and security for granted. If you're going to live with the mindset of living liberty without compromise, meaning that you are taking initiative and standing up for yourself, taking care of yourself in exchange for certain dangers that you may face, but that danger is worth the liberty that you see by not having government overreach. And so I would just strongly encourage you to be looking up organizations. There's organizations throughout the entire country. One of the ones that we're fortunate to have right here in Kootenai County is the Kootenai Stability and Resiliency Group that General Blaine Holt was instrumental in starting. It's people from all over in the community that are there to learn different field craft, if you will, how to can food, how to store things, how to heat your home, how to use radios, medical. But do your own investment. Don't take it for granted that first responders are always going to be there. I think we saw during COVID, there in the very early stages of the lockdowns, a lot of people that were working in the medical field, my son being one of them, was continually sequestered and kept at the hospital. He very rarely came home. So you can't suppose that you're going to be able to have all of these services that you've relied upon for all of our life. We live in different times. So the main idea is to encourage you, as we're seeing this fifth generation warfare, uncertain times, uncertain events on the horizon, whether we will face them or not, just be prepared. You're never going to be fully prepared for everything. You're not going to be able to financially secure that. Most of us aren't, but at least having the basics, having some food, having shelter, an alternative fuel source if you're relying on power, also communications and supplies, you'll be doing very well if any kind of an event, man-made or natural disaster, as you were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Literally yesterday, Pacific Palisades started burning to the ground. And that's in LA. And you would think of all places, it's not going to be like Hawaii. They're not going to just let that place burn down, right? They're surely, with all those multi-million-dollar mansions, they're going to secure those mansions. There's no way they're going to burn down. Well, how many hundreds of millions of dollars of structures were lost? and they were attempting to turn on fire hydrants and other reservoirs, and no water.
Mm-hmm.
And mismanagement from government, I don't know, but yeah, there was.
Well, not that again. Whether no matter the start of the fire, this still comes back to that idea of fifth generation warfare. Somebody could say, "Well, it's homeless that's living up in the hills there, so this was an accident waiting to happen." And then with the winds, and whoever else is theorizing as to how it was started. Then you have them going after, well, there's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. And then you've got everybody's got to, and this is the problem with social media is even the people with the blue check and the big names, they have to come out with information first. Mm-hmm. So if somebody else is given intel, then they have to come out with a counter argument or something to add to that. And there's this sense of immediacy. So you're losing the accuracy. But even within, as those fires are spreading, you've got the warfare in a sense that's happening for everybody watching that unfold, because you've got videos with like streaking objects across the sky. So saying, see, this is being, this is these fires are being intentionally started. I was with a good friend of mine today who said, take a look at this. Yeah, they burned down the Getty Museum. Yep. And I'm like, well, I hadn't heard that. When I went and checked, I couldn't confirm that. In fact, it seemed that there was a possible other associated Getty Museum that was, a satellite museum or something that was miles away near the fire, but didn't burn down. So yeah, you got to be careful. There's lots of information that flows in and out. But here's what my belief is. My belief is that if you, the individual, invest in your guardrails, those guardrails are going to keep you out of trouble. And what do I mean by guardrails? I've talked about this before, but a guardrail, if you think about it, always keeps you kind of from going over the edge or into areas you should not be, either to the right or to the left. And when I was out as a young teenager hunting in the woods of eastern Washington and northern Idaho, my dad taught me how to navigate using a good old-fashioned compass and a topo map. And we'd keep these laminated topo maps with us. We'd drop in an area and we would navigate. Sometimes myself, hours later, I'd hook up with my dad and we'd have a predetermined rendezvous later on in the day. But I learned how to read maps. And when you're reading a map and you're traversing over terrain, you can't take the time to constantly pull your compass out and try to take a bearing and make certain that you're going the course. And so what you learn is that if you keep certain things in your peripherals, kind of the guardrails, like maybe it's a body of water on this side, a creek or a mountain on this side or a ridge, you don't have to constantly pull out that map and navigate yourself. You know that as long as you're staying within the confines of these guardrails, you're going in the right direction. So you have absolutes, and you may not have many, but there's absolutes. And so it's the same thing when you think about life. You need to be continually reading old things, reading things that are about truths, things that are fundamental to who you are and who you believe and how you believe. For me, it's faith. Not only do I use the Bible for my guardrails and my absolute truth, but I also go back and read the words of the founders. I read the words of public figures throughout time and space that keep you centered as to what is right versus wrong. And I'm probably oversimplifying this, but really, if you want to, in this fifth generation warfare, to beat the misinformation, get yourself a bunch of knowledge, not on this and whatever is being tweeted or posted on Instagram or what you're watching on YouTube. Go back to the hard books and read and meditate on those before you open up social media in the morning. Take time to read and to write, to get your head full of truth, because the truth will be your guardrails when you start hearing deceptive things. And then there's also, for those of my friends who are of the faith, John 14:26 says, "But the Helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name,
He will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all that I've said to you. The Spirit is the one to give you the discernment in the uncertain times, because as human beings, we're fallible. We are prone to wander and to get off on side roads and not pay attention and to be confused. But for those of my personal belief, if you have the faith of the Father, that Spirit is promised to you, and your belief in Jesus Christ enables you to have that Spirit who will give you that discernment in times of trouble. And so, as we kind of wrap up this whole segment on fifth generation warfare, terrorism, and whether or not you should be concerned, and how it ties into compromised liberty versus liberty without compromise, I would just encourage you to take the time to read things like the Declaration of Independence. Read the Bill of Rights. Read the founders. Read John Locke and his 2 treatises of government, where we get the idea of all men are created equal in value under God, and every human being has the right to life, liberty, and property. These are guardrails. And so when you start hearing even those, I was just listening today that DC Drano apparently was getting paid a bunch of money to advocate for some. So you can't trust the blue check mark. You can't trust somebody just because they're popular and 99% of the time they say what you think is right. If you don't have these guardrails in your life, you will be completely confused and overtaken by whatever warfare is being thwarted on us. But I do believe always in hope, and I want people to live courageously and to live as if they are free people. So,
what is the resource online for the school that does
Hillsdale?
Thank you,
Hillsdale College,
and
online.
they've got free curriculum too. I was just hearing about that again today on the Jesse Kelly show.
Yeah. Take time. You can get as involved as buying the books, which I did. I went and purchased the books to go along with the series. I purchased some of their other literature, but you can be as involved as simply watching the video and doing nothing more.
And they're so good.
You can read the study notes and take the tests and read along in the books. But whatever you do, we have so many great resources to where you can learn our true history and go back to the basics. Kootenai County politics, you've got a lot of people that claim that they are liberty-minded and they're Christian, and by God, they're the best since sliced bread representative you can. But you need to be able to vet them yourselves, to ask the hard questions, to figure out, are these people really conservative? Do they really understand what it is to be a free American? Or have they bought into the narrative of the MAGA, movement? And I'm not a MAGA guy. I'm for liberty. I've seen, again, I'm for making America great. I want America great, but I'm not into the Trump cult. I voted for him. I believe that he's far better than the alternative, but I firmly respect some of our founders far greater than I do Trump, because even when you dial down into what Trump is and does, is he really a conservative? And what does it mean to be a conservative? I had a conversation today with a local figure who is going to be entering into politics, involved former police chief. And we were having this conversation today, and he said to me, well, you know what, I'm a Republican, and I'm a Republican of Republicans. And I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Really, really conservative.
Really conservative. Well, what does that mean? And why is it important to be conservative or not conservative? And I just don't think that too many people truly understand the terms that they're using when they're throwing them around. But they're sincere in their beliefs, but they may be sincerely wrong.
Yeah, and we have been here. We started the show talking about the podcast that we have published, the Power Player Pastors of Kootenai County series. And that is something you need to be aware of to understand when people are saying they're conservative or they're Christian. It used to be back in the day, 100 years ago, if you were American, I'm Even the Wicked Witch of the West. Mm-hmm. I'm a good Christian woman. Mm-hmm. I've never forgotten that line. It was synonymous. If I'm an American, of course I'm a Christian. Well, here in Kootenai County, if I'm a conservative and I go to church, of course I'm a Christian. And we're here to tell you there are some very dark and evil things that have been exposed. You're exactly right.
Evil things.
In our churches and even in the most politically active and most popular churches here in Kootenai County. So that audio podcast you can catch by looking up Liberty Without Compromise on any platform where you get your shows. And then I'll let you wrap this up.
Yeah. I am excited for this new year. 2025 is going to be a probably very wild year. There's going to be lots of things that come our way, some things that we have not experienced before, but I always have hope and belief in the American people. If they're given the right tools, given the right motivation, and are reminded of their heritage, they too can make the good decisions to live as free Americans, Americans that are invested in liberty without compromise. Always, always, always take your dangerous liberty over a certain security every chance you can, no matter what they're selling to you, no matter how much they want you to believe that they have your best interests at heart. I don't trust government as a general rule. You shouldn't either. Trust in truth and trust in freedom above all else. Well, trust in the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah, above all else.
Above all else. So.
And then everything else falls under that.
Yeah. I'm probably, though, going to hell because I dared to expose a couple pastors that are liars.
But did you cuss out the pastor?
Did not cuss out the pastor.
I just want to know.
Even though the pastor only told his campaign staff and 15 or 20 of his friends.
Well, I only told all my campaign staff and 15 or 20 of them. I mean, I don't know. What's the big deal?
And then the pastor that's involved with the former Fed, which Freedom of Information Act requests have turned up some interesting, I haven't told you this, some interesting updates as to whether or not this former Fed is still on the payroll or not. So.
Maybe an independent contractor.
And maybe so.
Thank you for joining us for the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. My name is Dawna. This is Dan. Thanks for joining us tonight. We want to thank our sponsor, Stella's Stogies. They're more than just cigars. You can get gifts in the shop there. They also do events. Very cool. I've seen their setup. It's really cool.
I love their events.
10% off your purchase at Stella Stogies on Main Street in Spirit Lake if you just mention Liberty Without Compromise. If you're listening back on our podcast, catch us live Wednesday nights at 7 on Facebook, YouTube, or X. And to learn more, go to libertywithoutcompromise.com for our podcast. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Anything else?
Be strong and of good courage. May the Lord bless you. Todd and Ron, we're still praying for you. God bless you all.
Thanks for joining us tonight, you guys. Thanks, Shar and Jen. Thank you all.
Time for a cigar.
Yes.
From Stella's.